What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Reality Kingdom, where we put the real in reality order, period. I'm your host, Pharaoh, and as you see by the title today, I'm going to be figuratively speaking with Adrian from Big Brother 27. Now, as always, I am not personally speaking with Adrian. Adrian was asked these questions by a CBS representative on behalf of all of the bloggers and podcasters and etc. who sent in him questions to be asked. So we did send him some questions, but I will let y'all know our questions did not get answered this time. He did get asked some questions from some other people, and he was able to give some really in-depth responses. So some of his responses kind of answered some of the questions we had anyways. So it all works out, and it is what it is. So I would just go ahead and hop straight into the figurative interview with Adrian. Boom. Okay, Adrian. So we saw you have a lot of experiences in the house, a lot of different relationships. And one of those relationships that was occurring was one with Nikki. Nikki seemed like she really enjoyed you in the game, and she started to give you some information about her perspective on what was happening. So I have to ask, do you think it was smart for your game to reveal the information that Nikki was giving you at that time?
Do I think it was a smart move to reveal what Nikki told me in confidence? And my answer to that is, it's hard to answer. Hold on, give me a second. A yes and no. I think long term, no. But short term, yes, because I want Nikki. Me and Nikki wanted to work together. We really did, but we just kind of kept getting pinned against each other, so we had to campaign kind of against each other, and it just wasn't good. The only reason why I did say that is because, one, eventually I need someone to take a shot at Nikki because she's just so well positioned in the house, and she's not going to vote with me. So at the moment, I didn't really feel like what did I have to owe her if she wasn't like willing to like help save me. Like she wasn't campaigning to save me. She wasn't going to give me her vote. So I felt that I needed to paint a target, especially if I stayed in the house. Like I need someone to take that shot because if I win HOH, I wouldn't have gone after Nikki, but Nikki is still well positioned in the house. So I needed people to realize, especially if she was going to go after my close allies, that were I thought Vince and Zach. I forgot what I was saying. That Vince or Zach, I needed them to like start targeting Mickey because I was going to go after Morgan. So I was like, if I was going to go after Morgan, I'm like, who's going to go after Mickey? You know? So and then Mickey would eventually go after Vince and Zach. It just depends who wins HOAs. She wasn't going to go after Vince and Zach right away because they're just too well positioned. That's too big of a move. But she would have eventually would get them out before she gets Morgan. But I would have got Morgan out before Mickey would have. So the reason why I did tell her or did tell people about it is because I was trying to grow a target on Mickey to help break up that side of the house and to get the other side of the house to work more with me. But if it did get out that it came from me, it could bite me in the butt, but I could twist it back and say, Mickey, well, you lied to me. I knew she lied to me. It wasn't that big of a deal, but because I knew she had the power and I understand why she didn't tell me, but it just showed me how much she trusted me, even though she said she wanted to work with me. And I really do. She believed she did trust me, but not too much to the extent that because that power would have been useless if I had given away who had it.
Okay, friend. So we heard a lot about Wall Comp Wednesdays and how you had all these puzzles and shit in your backyard and how you were practicing all the competitions. I have to ask, do you feel like practicing all those competitions actually helped benefit you with the competitions in the actual house?
Did the competitions in my backyard and especially the wall comp help me in the house? I wouldn't say it did because the competitions I prepared for weren't really seen on the show, or at least when I was in the house. The first HOH, I knew that I could have won the first HOH. It was a simple physics problem. I knew how to put it on. I just didn't want to win it because I really wanted to win the first power that Zach got, and I got pretty close. But I was like, I'm growing a huge target on my back, so I need to throw the first HOH. I didn't do a good job at throwing it, but that was going to put a target on my back later. But when it came to the second HOH, it was a shot in the dark. Like there is really no way to prepare because you have the zero idea where any of those powers could have been. The only technique is like go against the wall, and that's how you could find a different room. If you really couldn't get your way out of a room, is that you put your hand on the wall and until you find a door. You just keep going in circles until you find a door. Like that's how you get into a different room if you didn't want to stay in that one. So I knew that aspect, but I just couldn't find the power to save my life. Ready, set, go comp. That one, the only way you can prepare for is have strong legs. I was never gonna have as big of legs as Keanu. That guy is freaking Quadzilla. So yeah, he was gonna always beat me, but I knew that when it came to like speed, but I knew when it came to that competition, I knew the biggest thing that takes people out is false starts. And that's one thing that I didn't do that helped me beat Keanu and Jimmy. But unfortunately, Casey had a better takeoff than I did, like probably like way stronger legs than I did, and she didn't fall start. So that was the one reason I couldn't beat that. I was so a little bit devastated that I didn't play in the balance beam the last HOH because I trained so hard on balance beams like 4 times as small as the ones you see on the show. So this was devastating. And then when the walk comp, everyone in the house was talking so much trash. I'm gonna be the last one. I'm gonna work out forearms. I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, you don't even know what I know. I was even gonna tell Zach that it's not just forearms. Like you got to work out your front shoulders, your side shoulders, your core. And I was gonna teach him the technique of how to rest your hands even when you're at the slant, because the wall eventually goes back and you like to rest your hands. You see on the show, but I was like, I didn't want to rely on the wall going up to give me rest. I know how to rest my forearms when you're at a full slant. So I was super devastated to not have played in the wall comp because I knew that would have been my HOH. And the HOH, I could guarantee I could take shots. No one else. Everyone said, I'm not dropping off that wall. But I knew I would never let go of that wall if I wanted to win. And I was just waiting for it just because I knew that was a guaranteed HOH for me.
Okay, and do you feel like maybe instead of focusing on those competitions, you could have focused a little bit more on your social game? Do you feel like your social game was lacking in the house? And if that was better, that might have improved things? Or do you feel like focusing on the competitions was a good idea?
So when it comes to not focusing on building competitions in my backyard, but rather focusing on my social game in the house, yes. Was my social game the best in the world? No. But my social game could have been better. There was a lot of people that I didn't make connections with, especially with Rachel. I don't think I was ever gonna win Rachel over. But when it came to like Morgan, it was kind of hard because she was so threatened by me. It was just really hard to shake anything else because when that seed was planted in her head, that I was a huge threat, she had her eyes locked to get me out. Jimmy was gonna vote for either side that was going to have the least blood on his hands. It's why he put the 3 easiest targets up on his HOH because he's a chicken, not a snake. Well, he is a snake, but he's more of a chicken. Anyways, and yeah, when it came to the social aspect, I wouldn't say my social game I think would have paid off long term because what isn't really shown in the show was that a lot of people in the house, the majority of the house wanted to work with me. They saw me as a trustworthy ally, one that could fight for them, one that could protect them, one that could be a shield for them. But a lot of things kind of ruined that when it came to so one big catalyst that led to my downfall, at least in my social game, was Kelly. Kelly grew really close to me early on in the season, and the problem was that she was instigating, she was lying a lot. Very early on, she was playing really hard, and I was associated with her, even though I was telling the truth and being honest. So when Keanu and Kelly were the top two nominees, it was just easy to throw me up there because one, in the house, they knew that I kept getting second place, that I was a good competitor, and then two, that I was associated with Kelly, and then being associated to Kelly eventually led to me being associated to Keanu, and that really hurt me. And if you watch the goodbye messages, Catherine even confirms this. My goodbye message is that she believes that it was week one, just getting so close to Kelly or Kelly being so close to me really was my downfall because Mickey wanted to work with me, Ashley wanted to work with me, Vince, Zach wanted to work with me. That's why they kind of wanted to keep me in the house, but when it came down to it, they didn't. But they knew that I was a trustworthy ally that could protect them and was loyal to them. But of course, like I said, there's a lot more things behind the scenes that led up to my eviction than what was shown. So I think my social game could have paid off, especially long term. But the only thing is there's a lot of series of unfortunate events that happened. It's just that I couldn't really push Kelly away because I told Kelly that we need to distance ourselves because we're seen as a duo. We're seen like we're inseparable. So we need to separate. But that didn't help at all because at that point we were already renoms and it was too easy to put up. And no matter how far me and Kelly could have been, no matter how far me and Keanu could have separated, the house was always going to view us that way. And it was something that I just couldn't shake unless Kelly was out of the house. And I stayed in. My social game was likely to survive because I had a lot of people who wanted to work with me, especially Mickey. I loved Mickey. I wanted to work with Mickey, but when it came to Jimmy's HOH and Lauren's HOH, we're kind of pinned against each other a lot of the time. So it wasn't that, but at deep down, we didn't want to be against each other. We wanted to work with each other. So that was a little bit downfall too. So I think a lot of people, there's a misperception of like my social game. I think really what happened was that a lot of people did want to work with me. It's just that a lot of things happened that led to my eviction.
All right, Adrian. And last question for you. So, when you were evicted, you did get 4 votes to save you, and none of those 4 votes were Zach and Vince, who you were working with closely, or so you believed. Why do you think it is that Zach and Vince did not vote with your side to save you?
So why the reason okay, why do I think Zach and Vince flipped on me if I had the tie and Lauren was going to break it? That's a fantastic question. First off, oh, so I got a burp. But also, there's a couple reasons. Vince, early on, and I was warning Zach and Kelly about this, that he wasn't name dropping at all. He was going in the have not room, which he never slept in with Morgan and Mickey. Um, and you could tell that he was aligning himself with a lot of other players, especially when I was in the HOH room with Lauren and Vince. Vince was never name dropping ever, and that was a huge indicator to me that he was like paired up with so many people that if he had name dropped, it would have gone back to somebody and they would have known like, hey, why are you throwing me under the bus? We're supposed to be final two. So Vince, I believe the reason why he didn't is one, because Zach wasn't willing to break the tie. And two, he was so well insulated, or he made so many promises, he didn't want to draw that line. And and if he was going to draw that line, he wanted to be in the majority, not a tiebreaker, because it was just too risky. And when it came to Zach, Zach has a little bit of a soft spot for the girls in the house. When it came to Ava, he just loved Ava so much. And, I love Ava too. I was working with her too. But when it came to Will, she was never going to keep me. Just because I was a bigger threat and she had a closer connection to Will than me and her had. But Zach also has feelings for Lauren, and he's trying to get something. He's trying to grow on Lauren for sure, and that might be his downfall later in the game because he does have a soft spot for Lauren. And when he came to Mickey, not Mickey, when he came to Morgan, Morgan has a bit of a crush on Zach. But the thing is, Zach made it clear that he's not really into Morgan, but I know Zach likes the attention and he didn't really want to upset Morgan. He didn't really want to draw that line, and especially if Lauren had to be the one to break that tie, Zach wouldn't have wanted to do that because he would have put a target more on Vince and Zach, but it would have been a bigger target on Lauren, and it would have to like basically divide the house. And like I said, Zach has a soft spot, and when he went up to Ava, knowing that I guaranteed 6 votes, but they wanted 7 to make sure that they didn't have to break the tie, and Lauren didn't have to do that. But when Ava was the last 6 vote that I could potentially sway, and, and they knew that she wasn't going to budge, they flipped. They decided to not vote with me, and I do think that they are going to regret it later on, especially because when it came to Vince and Zach, I would have had their backs. I was a little worried of Vince, but Zach, I made it very clear to him that he's my number one, that I wouldn't betray him, that I was gonna have his back. But the fact that he rather protect his potential showmance that he just was so starstruck on that it was just better that he thought it was better just to make sure Lauren had no blood on her hands. But I think that might be his downfall, especially later in the season. If Lauren gets put up and he's selected for the veto, who's he gonna take off? I don't think he would sacrifice his game for Lauren, but in that aspect, like the veto, but he might put himself in harm's way just to protect Lauren if he starts growing, if that feeling for Lauren starts growing better with her or not. Lauren is reciprocating that feeling or not. So I think they will regret, especially Vince, knowing that he's making too many promises and he's really loyal to nobody.
All right, y'all. That was all the questions asked for Adrian. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching. Of course, as always, if you did not know, we are doing our TRK after show every single Wednesday. And this Wednesday, we are going to be joined live by Ethanimal. Shout out to Ethanimal. If you would like to ask us any questions about this week, it has been a wild week. If you want to ask me, him, or just have both of us discuss any questions, or you have any questions specifically for Ethanimal, make sure you use the hashtag Kingdom Speaks on Twitter, on Blue Sky, or wherever you can at us, so that way we can answer these questions whenever we go live on Wednesday for the after show. And of course, as always, join us every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday for your Big Brother content throughout the entire season. And make sure you subscribe and like if you have not already. And thank you for keeping it real with the Kingdom, baby. We're out. Goodbye.